There we go.
So am I happy with one?
Yes, I do. Now I want to.
More than tragedy for you.
So you got 10 minutes of content and then 10 minutes stand-up.
Indeed, let me tell you about the drive I had out here. Interesting person.
Okay, Rick, I'm going to send you something.
Okay.
Let me just sign in here first. I'm going to send you the link itself. So I want you to test just the link first and see what you see. Okay.
So time-wise,
Give me 1 minute to finish what I'm doing and then I'll do that. 1 minute, Scott?
Oh, no worries. I'll just send it. You jump on it when you're ready.
Send it.
so my time is up here. So refresh me again. Always here.
Refresh you what?
The time is 20 minutes of content, 40 minutes of questions?
Yeah.
Okay. 20-minute timer up there. So I'm going to stop waving my hands.
Mine will say link is subject line. Oh, hang on. I may not have put it in properly. Let me do this again. Dope. Good Lord, Scott. And we'll say link to. There. That should be better.
What's the effective distance?
That's about okay, and I'll pay attention to it.
I just want to make sure I'm centered with the camera, but the microphone doesn't too massively obscure me.
Done. Publish. It's taking me right to it now. To the webinar.
We're on camera.
Yep. And I'm just going to turn the sound down because I was hearing his chat. And I don't care if they look at you, but why is that coming through on what I'm sending to the camera?
Do you want to do a sound check from here? Okay.
I'll just track it.
Okay, that's fine.
I'll do a little moving around and such to kind of make sure that you're cool and everything will be good. Okay. Get rid of you. So the only thing we're looking at is this. Are you seeing anything yet, Vic?
No, but I will look right now.
Okay. I feel pretty good about where we are right now. Check, check. Yep, check, check.
That's good.
Okay.
'Cause if you were not feeling good, then that wouldn't be good.
That would, in fact,
Okay.
suck.
So this second link that you sent me is supposedly take me right to the.
Yep, it should take you right to YouTube.
And that's what people are gonna find on the.
Yep, on the link page. Otherwise, you could log into the link page, but let's try this first. Because this will be what they do. I think just share a little bit because I'm seeing it. It's going to block this shot.
Yep, I'm seeing.
There we go. I think we can look at that. All right. Now if I go to 2, 1, do this, good. And 3 is, why? What are you seeing on your screen right now?
Black.
On my screen, I see the cover slide.
That's odd. Okay, can I take a quick look at that for a second?
Is this, there's.
Yep, jump in.
One of these old school guys, I think the Coke actually makes your voice sound better than water.
Well, I'll take that a step further, which is if you're feeling sick.
Yeah.
You go to, Burger King and get Coke Icy. You drink that and the sickness goes away.
Really? Cold Coke, right?
Icy, the Coke Icy's from EK. It's like a shot of penicillin straight into the bloodstream.
Got it.
Wow, that was like my, my hangover cure right there.
What was that?
Going to a very greasy taco place and having, you know, Mexican Coke plus the biggest ugly breakfast taco you could get.
Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave up your main slide.
Yep. Let us just voice over it.
Yeah, well, actually, what I'm going to do is when we start this whole thing, good, the volume's down. We start this whole thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit a video that plays.
Okay.
And the video shows our open. It shows the Schwegman sponsorship thing, which is actually a cute little piece of business. I really like what I was able to find for it.
Oh, cool.
So, you know, it's a search. How to find help with intellectual property is the search that pops up the Schwegman logo.
Yep.
So it's a cute little piece of business. Okay. And then there's a commercial that says, please join us in the library. You can get a certain amount off if you join, or you get a week free if you join today. Mm-hmm. That sort of thing.
Cool.
Oh, I haven't had an honest to God Dr. Pepper, and I can't tell you how long.
Yeah, it has a cult following.
I love Dr. Pepper. When I used to work construction down in Kansas, and it was 102 degrees, and I was down in an 8-foot hole throwing cement forms out. For lunch, I'd drink 2 liters. That's how much I would lose.
Yeah.
What a great job for a young man, though. You find out quick you don't want to do that for 30 years.
Yeah, I was retrofitting U.S. tanks in Pakistan. No, it's a similar situation. I was taking American tanks apart, taking the old stuff off, and new stuff in.
Yep.
Got 112 degrees.
And it sucks.
Shade, yeah.
Yeah. And I was playing rugby for Topeka men's at the time.
Oh, there we go.
So 102, 106 degrees, I'm out on a rugby pitch, running around like a maniac.
Yeah, there wasn't any good advisories about heart failure.
Well, I was also, 19?
Yeah, no, you had lots of it, but it's still, I was a farm kid who grew up.
Yeah.
Throwing hay bales at 90 degrees, 90%.
Oh, the best time, my girlfriend down in Kansas. I'd gone out to D.H. Phillips Farm. And my buddy Sean lived across the road from D.H., where they had, his dad was a supplier for the state patrol and had the ranch.
Yeah.
So they had cattle. And they would just run a few and they would sell them and they would do this and they would butcher some for their own use. And D.H. Needed someone to help him throw up hay, right? So Sean says, hey, Scott, come throw up hay with me and D.H. You know, you'll get a beer at lunch, you'll get a beer at dinner. I said, I will? He goes, oh yeah, DH feeds you well, takes good care of you, you get breakfast when you get here, first thing in the morning, and we work hard. Okay, cool. So we went out and did that, and I learned all about throwing up hay. Okay, fine. Not a difficult concept, harder on you physically, and DH was a good old boy. He was a good guy. Took good care of two young guys. And I get to my girlfriend's house, and I'd just been talking to my friend Rick Brickeye before I came over there, and I said, hey, Rick, you want to go out and do something? He said, I can't, I'm throwing up hay at Brackett's farm. Okay, fine. So I get to Lisa's house, and I look like something the cat dragged in. I'm still dying. And she says, oh, I thought she said Rick was coming with you. And I said, no, Rick's over at Brackett's throwing up hay. She says, what was he doing eating hay? And I said,
I did not see that coming.
no, I said, what did you say? She said, what's he doing eating hay? I said, come with me. I walked down to where her mother was. I said, would you tell your mother how you answered this, how you replied to my saying, Rick is at Brackett's farm throwing up hay? And now she knows it's up. She's going, you're a jerk.
Yeah.
She looks at her mom and says, I wanted to know what he was doing eating hay, and her mother just comes apart.
Yeah.
It was perfect. Yeah, life was idyllic.
Yeah.
Now it's a little more complex.
I have to pay attention to things like better.
The inanity that is, right?
I just don't get it. It's just a platform for something.
Yep. For my Facebook feed, I love it because I can stay connected to family that's elsewhere in the country or if they're traveling around the world. We can stay in contact. We know what everybody's doing. We're having a pretty good time. I got to finish doing this.
Yeah, why don't you?
No, I did make the link live.
I say, I have a comment here, Miriam to be 1HD. And
Somebody commented?
no, it's a little pop-up notification on my.
Oh, what's it say?
It says Chrome OS 5 minutes, Miriam VH.
Yep, you can click on that and let's get rid of it. Because I see it backwards on the screen here. There should be an X to get rid of it.
Yep. Okay. Re-obscured the mouse.
Okay, that's fine. As long as it's mirroring, we're in good shape. Okay, it's bringing us to where it should be. Oh, I know why it's hearing my microphone when I do that. Okay. Rick, have you been able to connect and see what's going on?
What I'm seeing is Mark's cover page.
Yep, and that's what you should see. Here's Mark and you.
Say something.
Here I am. Welcome, everyone. It's a grand old time here at the Irish Tech. Well, faith in you.
Is your speaker on?
No, I got my speaker off. What's that? Good?
Check, check.
Check,
Mark?
check, check, check.
Check, check, check.
Yeah, we're great. We're killer. I'm hearing us. And let me do this. Check, check, check. I know it's coming through to here, so it should be going through to there. You're logged in normally?
I logged into what you asked me to log in.
Okay, cool. Would you turn on your speaker, please?
From my computer.
On your computer?
Okay.
Checking, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Checking, testing, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Checking, testing, 1.
Turn it back on.
Checking, testing, 1.
We are as live as we could possibly be, and we've got a couple of minutes to spare.
Sweet.
Okay, so question,
Yep.
to submit a question, if
Yep.
submitting a question, how do I do that? It says here, create a channel to join the chat. How do I do that?
Ooh, okay, maybe you should log in as Network Connect then. How did we have you log in last time when you saw it backwards? Did you?
I don't need to type in anything, but if I wanted to,
You can't until such time as you create a channel. Is that what it's saying?
it says create a channel to join the chat. All message you send will appear publicly.
Okay. And I'm logged in so I can see it. Maybe we should just log you into YouTube, the YouTube channel. Okay. Let me, oops, I'll get the YouTube channel login information to you. Drive. I love Google Drive. You can't lose anything.
Well, that would impact them if they did. Presumably, you're the product, so. Sorry, my bias is showing.
Of course, absolutely. But what Drive does is allow me to keep all the files in the cloud. If a computer explodes,
They're still there.
I've lost nothing. And that, to me, because I've lost stuff before, it sucks. Let's go to the Network Connect. Wait a minute. Let's go to Lessons from the Garage.
You just have to remember to look at the camera, not my screen.
Yeah, every now and then, you can look at the screen, you can look at the camera, you know, however you want to do it. When you're not looking at the screen, looking at the camera is the right place to be.
That's why I like radio.
Yeah.
Look, I can pay attention to one thing. Use handicap and then multi.
What? Okay. Let's go to the Network Connect. Logins. Okay. I'm going to send you a quick email, Rick, and this is how you log into the YouTube channel.
Okay.
There you go. I don't know why I don't see anybody here right now.
I don't know either. That's that as well. Let's think whether they aren't going to show up until 3 o'clock. They think they're.
All right, well, we give them a few minutes.
Usually on my other webinars, it's pretty much 2 or 3 minutes after.
Sure. I'm going to borrow that computer for just a second. Don't think I've logged into the website. I'm going to steal your chair for just a minute. Let's go to
So go to YouTube and then use these credentials.
Yep.
Am I searching?
You just, you have to go to login. I think it's on the upper right-hand side. Oh, I think I know why. It was doing what it was doing.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
YouTube looks like it's a Google. I'm supposed to sign in.
Yep. So you have to sign out.
out using a different.
Oh, that screws you up, doesn't it? Okay, go in the normal way. We'll work it out.
Can I be logged in 2 different places under 2 different passwords?
No, this will mess you up, so let me look at this for just a second. And I'm logged in. And it's hearing this microphone, so let's turn, I can't turn that sound up. The link is working, as it should. So if they use the password properly,
We're on the 2 watching,
okay, you're seeing that?
Yeah.
Good.
But I'm 1.
It's a good thing about it.
Up to 3. It's got the volume is turned off.
Yeah, I've got the volume off. When we log in on these machines, it starts hearing that microphone, it starts listening to that, so. Lessongarage.com webinar. I'm just gonna check the phone feed real quick, since we've got a minute or two. Wow, working perfectly. Wow, perfectly.
Mark, have you done before?
Good, probably about 60 of them. I try to, it's a pretty effective method for me to face.
Okay, do we want to give it a couple of minutes? And
Usually it probably doesn't know where to start in a couple minutes.
okay, you want to, Rick, you want to handle that? Whoops, I'm going to cut over to you on the camera.
Am I on camera?
You will be in a second.
I'm giving you one.
No worries, I'll wait right here.
Oh, here it is. College catalyst. Okay, I'm good.
Okay, just tell them we'll start in a couple of minutes.
Okay. Hi folks, Rick Brimacombe here from Lessons from the Garage. Just wanted you to know that we will be starting in a couple of minutes. Just gonna give everybody an opportunity to get connected. Have Mark Stenani from Schwegman Lumber Woosner here to talk about intellectual property, and we will be started in a moment. Thanks.
You're off camera, mics are down.
I didn't see me on camera, I only saw Mark's.
I switched it and I saw it switch here on the feed. It might have moved slowly for you.
Never switched.
That's weird. You want me to click over to you again? Or I can click over to a different screen. There's a different screen.
Different screen, like all black?
Yep.
Yeah, I see all black.
Okay, good. Now you're back to, in a second, you should be back to the PowerPoint.
Yes, sir.
Okay, then we're doing what we should. So when we start, like I said, I'm gonna play this.
Should we start that? Because I have some announcements and
Yep.
there's 3 after.
And then I'll come to you. Is it your call? Do you want to get started?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll get started.
Mark, you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Okay, very good. Let me play the video and we will be off to the races.
Outside of the classroom. That's where all the action happens. That's where the rubber meets the road and the hard knocks some sense into. But did you ever wish you could get those lessons without all the fuss? Sign up today and get your first week free. You can cancel at any time.
I'll give you the finger.
Hi, folks. Welcome to Lessons from the Garage, powered by the Network Connect. I'm Rick Bremico, and we are doing our March webinar. For those of you who have not crossed paths with the Network Connect before, Dick Summerstead and I started it back in 2011, and then we added the webinar series to the mix just last month, so this is webinar number 2. And as I mentioned, this is, while powered by the Network Connect, is Lessons from the Garage. And the goal here is to help you folks get up and running, move your companies forward faster with less mistakes and spending less money, create shareholder value for as little as possible and as efficiently as possible. Lessons from the Garage is a series of how-to videos to grow your company faster and more profitably. And you might think of it as a Netflix for entrepreneurs. We have over 200 titles so far, and will be about 300 or so by the end of the year. The event today is sponsored by Schwegman Lumber Woosner, an intellectual property law firm. And for those of you who would like to learn more about them, you can visit www.slwip.com. Again, that's www.slwip.com. Lessons from the Garage is a portfolio or library of how-to videos on growing more successful companies. And today we're going to be talking about intellectual property. Before we get to our speaker, Mark Stenani, just real quickly to let you know about future upcoming events. On April 9th, we are going to be doing Selling Your Business, which is going to be sponsored by Sunbelt, and we will have a business broker from Sunbelt talking about selling by your business. On May 14th, we have the Defense Alliance, the federal government as an investor, and how to capture federal dollars to grow your business faster. So think of it as kind of economic development, business development, utilizing the government. And then in June 11th, we're going to be talking about doing business in China. Again, lessonsfromthegarage.com is where you can go get a 1-week free subscription to the library and test out our product. So with that, and the goal again is we're going to be doing first Tuesday webinars. This got moved back a week, but as you kind of plan out your schedule looking forward, think of the first Tuesday from 3 to 4, and we will be trying to do our monthly webinars then. All right, back to Mark Sinani. Mark is the practice chair and analytics and the firm compliance officer at Schwegman Lumber Buchner. He's a registered patent attorney and has had patent experience in a variety of different technology areas, including software, hardware, information systems, mobile devices, and pretty much anything that has to do with technology. He originally got his electrical engineering degree at the U of M, then went to law school at William Mitchell, started his career in industry at Honeywell, where he was an engineer before he went to law school at Thomson, and then Thomson Reuters for about 16 years, a couple of different private companies, and then also was a guest lecturer at Stanford, talking about intellectual property and due diligence. And then now he's been at Schwegman for coming up on about 7 years. Mark's going to discuss with you things that you need to know and should be asking about as it relates to trademarks, patents, and copyrights, and hopefully clear up any common confusion that you might have around the various topics on intellectual property. And we will also get to some things such as when is the right time to speak to an attorney, when should we start to spend money on these kinds of projects, what's important to protect and not. And Mark is going to give us about 20 minutes of content, and then we can go to Q&A. We'll be watching the feed here, so if you have questions along the way, please send those in, and we'll try to weave those into the conversation. So with that as background, welcome, Mark, and thank you for joining us today, and thank you for you and your firm sponsoring the event. I appreciate the support of Schwegman Lumber Buchner, and again, you can go to www.slwip.com to learn more about them. And with that, I will turn it over to you, Mark, and again, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Rick. I appreciate your time and attention, and everyone out there, I appreciate your attention to this as well. So today I'm here to talk about a wildly amorphous thing called intellectual property. It's essentially a set of different things that are both government-granted rights, common law granted rights, and things that you put into a contract. So what are these things called intellectual property? Or why do we need them? One of the things that this does for you is it actually helps you market your product. Whether you're bringing your product to a venture capitalist, whether you're bringing your product to market, having your intellectual property, which includes your brand, it includes your registrations around your technology, it goes around your presentations, or if you're a musician or a literary artist, your written word. This puts boundaries and protections in place around your unique product, unique services that allows you then to go out and market yourself in the marketplace and give yourself a distinctive brand, distinctive separate entity from the other people playing in the marketplace. So you use in about 60 different contexts across the world, but in this context of the startup marketplace, it's a separate asset class. So a lot of times companies, when they start up, they don't have a lot of sales, they don't have a lot of customers, they have lots of things that are good ideas and places to go, but they don't have anything that's really a bankable asset. So intellectual property, whether it's your trademark, whether it's your patents, whether it's your copyrights, constitute the majority of the value of your startup company. And a lot of companies, when they go into bankruptcy, also that's probably one of the primary assets that everybody's working over as well. So it's a nice asset to have. It counts on your profit and loss statement. It helps you with various R&D investment things in the tax code. There's a ton of different opportunities to use intellectual property for. It's also a hook to get your private equity pitch together. As you're building a company for acquisition, the intellectual property assets you have and how you explain yourself and underlying that explanation of your business plan with your intellectual property assets is a very useful and highly convincing way of getting good investors to buy into your process and your product. I'm not going to read deeply from my slides. You can all read in there, and if I haven't been clear enough on any one of the bullet points, please throw a question there, and I hope we'll answer it in detail, excruciating detail, I promise.
Mark, just jumping in here, if somebody were to want to get the slides, they can reach out to you or us. And
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely, and like I said, I'm always happy to just chat about intellectual property. I'm probably one of the more odd people, so don't invite me to your birthdays. I don't want to talk about that. So basically, intellectual property is a strategy. It's a business strategy. It has to do with the look and feel of your offering. It's directly related to the people you have and the proprietary nature of what you bring to your business plan. It answers things like, why are you unique? What makes you valuable, as opposed to anybody else in the marketplace? It helps you define and put regulatory funds around what's your worth, why are you worth your cost. And so these types of things are crucial when you're explaining to a customer, or you're explaining to a venture capitalist or someone who wants to invest in your business, why is your business plan unique and why is it defensible? And it's just one more way of putting a barrier up so someone can't just knock you off and compete with you by stealing your idea. I don't really like that term because most often everybody's just trying to do what the market's reacting to. It's not personal. So the rest of it is, so once you're putting your business plan together, you should be thinking aligning your IP strategy. So you're going to start a business that's going to have a great brand name, great trademark. You should actually think about how that trademark and brand affects your business or improves your business going forward. All too often, I see people getting trademarks in something that's merely description. So if you're someone who's building a business around 3D printing, if you say Printmaker 3D, it's a really weak trademark. It doesn't really distinguish you from almost anybody else in the marketplace. Your sales rep will love it because it says exactly what you do, but it hasn't got a lot of uniqueness to bring yourself a separate sense of identity in the marketplace. So as you're bringing your business plan together, you should really give deep thought to how IP or what IP is even useful for you to do. So I always think in this order. I think about brand first. If you're in a tech business, I think about patents for the technology. If it's a software or data business, then you might want to think about things like copyright, trade secret, and other forms of data protection, things that are in that space. So how you start your business, what the nature of your business is, will probably modify your IP strategy a little bit right out of the gate. And then as you diverge into what is your core value, then the IP strategy should really be reinforcing that and making sure it kind of throws itself ahead of you, so that as you get to a higher valuation, your competitors can't, lightly walk in your footsteps to get there as well. So let's talk about 4 different things. There's 4 pillars of IP. These are all registrations that are, government or state codified in some form of law. Trademarks, as I mentioned, is all about your brand. It identifies your source, the quality of your goods. It gives you a sense of distinctive, image away from the rest of the marketplace. You can enforce it when people come too close to it for confusion of origin of source or confusion over dilution. But you also have to have this kind of in a continuous use format. So it's not something you can blindly put aside. You have to remain devoted to your trademark and your brand and keep it in continuous use. And then as long as you pay your upgrade, your 10-year renewal fees, you can kind of keep that in play for quite a long time, essentially forever, if you have a long and abiding business. Patents are really something about function or usefulness or design uniqueness. So patents are kind of the kind of big Cadillac in all the intellectual property registrations, because it's good for about 20 years, but it allows you to exclude an entire class of technology from other people's attention or ability to go in there without you enforcing them. So the patents themselves are probably the most expensive thing to get. There's ways to get there in a fiscally responsible manner, but they will give you probably the biggest bang for the buck, because they're also, they give you the opportunity to be an offensive user of your IP. If you haven't had the time or money to develop something, someone else has developed something that you can patent, you can reach out and potentially prevent them from profiting because you got there first with that. So it's a very powerful tool, but it's also not the cheapest tool in the toolbox. So as you're doing startups, it is a cost consideration as to when you file your patents and how much you want to rely upon those patents in accordance with other things. Now, copyright and something called copyright is really much more of a software, music, or a literary arts thing, where basically you put something together, a work of art, a work of music, a book, a set of software, and this protects you from getting copied. So probably the best, most lively example of this is the Mickey Mouse has been copyrighted for almost up upwards of 100 years at this point. And so copyright has been, some people say, unnecessarily extended to protect various aspects of larger corporations. But that being said, it is probably one of the longest statutory periods that you can get damages and things for that. The Supreme Court has just put new rules in place around copyright. So if there's an aspect of your system's got data or arrangement of data or words in an artistic format, lots of things to do in that place. Copyleft is really a realm of things left for software. You've heard of open source software. Copyleft is really the law around open source software. So unless anybody has specific questions on that, I'll just leave that, because that's about an hour-long discussion. And then
Save that for next time.
Save that for next time. But the one thing that I think is hugely underutilized is trade secret law. Because trade secret law doesn't really cost you a lot of money, almost no money. In fact, to get started, you just have to have a secrecy policy, and you have to things that are the secret sauce of your business. And so a lot of people, especially in startup business, give this up when they're bringing themselves into the venture capitalists or other things. They don't protect the secret sauce. They basically walk in, even though you're under an NDA, you basically tell people what you're going to do, and they say, well, if that's all you got, then I don't really need to fund you. I can just go out and hire somebody to do exactly that myself. So trade secret has probably the greatest risk when you're talking to an investment person who wants to know everything you're doing. But the good news about it is it's like the formula for Coca-Cola. As long as you can keep it secret, it's protected, and you don't really have to pay a lawyer or someone else to do things in that respect. So, but it has no limitations, and we certainly want to address that. So as you're talking about getting a business started, a lot of the IP you'll probably see right off the bat is a trademark issue. If you've got high tech or tech of any form, that's you're bringing something to market that's really novel and unique. You probably want to think about a patent. If you're doing software and other things that work around data, copyright's a useful thing, and data also is very important to think about your trade secret aspects, especially if you're working highly in the metadata sphere. So enough on that, we can keep moving. So one of the things you're going to get a lot of as a startup business, you're going to see a lot of contract. So IP in many times is limited or curtailed or given away in your contract terms. So this is when you're starting to sign contracts, pay special attention to who owns what when it comes to intellectual property or intangible property or things that are not they're not real tangible items. They're not a widget or a person showing up on Sunday to do something. If it's really just the whole essence of your business, be careful what you sign away in your first sets of contracts. As a startup, you don't have a lot of contractual negotiation power. So a lot of times people feel kind of trapped between a rock and a hard place and what they can keep of their own. And that's one point where I say you probably want to talk to an attorney as those get forward, because a lot of people will sometimes sign contracts that severely limit their IP rights right off the bat, especially when working with a vendor or a venture team. So what do you predict? Well, let's start with what makes you money. I mean, the things that, what you want to preserve is your cash flow and your revenue stream and your ability to continue to preserve that cash flow. So as you're thinking about what IP assets help you preserve that cash flow, those are the probably ones I would start with first. Also, if there are things that are kind of obvious, they're special, but you want to explain what you do and how you do it. The problem that you're solving, or the reason someone's buying for it, might be immediately obvious. So if it's something that's immediately obvious like that, and someone can come up with 6 different ways to do it, that's when you might want to think about a patent, because then you could file the patent on the 6 different ways to do something, rather than just only what you're doing. So there's a bit of an art form in that, but those are the types of things you want to think about. Also, what makes you unique as a business. So if it's your brand, if it's look and feel of your marketing brochure, if it's your website design, there's a whole bunch of different things you can do to preserve that and keep yourself heavily invested in what you've got that makes you unique. Also, what would create a competitor? If you're entering in a space, and this isn't that common, if you're entering a space where you're the first person in that space and you've got something, a process or something that you come up with that's unique, because you've solved something that saves you money, how to make something, you've done something different, you've skipped a step. Those all are things that a competitor can come in and pretty much set themselves up next week. In those cases, that would be something I would certainly advise you to go into protection mode with and bring forward probably to an attorney at an earlier point than in many other cases. So that's kind of the rules of thumb when you start, well, what do you put IP around if you can? And now, I do want to caveat here that not everything is protectable. It's not, some of the rules of what you can protect are, whether something's been registered already, you can't certainly copy something that's been later, that's been registered earlier. In the patent world, you can't patent something that's already on the marketplace more than a year. In the copyright side, you can create something in your originality, but you can't cut and paste somebody else's work together. Otherwise, then you're violating that. And also, if you were working for a company, then you learned about things that were trade secret for that company. You can't take those with you to the next employer and simply begin reusing those there, because that would open liability as well. So it's a tricky set of balances. There are a lot of factors to concern yourself with, and there's a lot of, frankly, a lot of hand waving when I read a lot of the stuff online about what you should do, when you should do it. It's a lot of times patents, any intellectual property you create is a very personal subject for you. It is your lifeblood. It is something that, in many cases, you have formed certain opinions about, and sometimes an attorney will help you expand those opinions to some degree and help you find better places for your focus on that intellectual property. So, with that being said, I have my own set of guidelines of what you spend your money on first. I am, although I'm a patent attorney, I think that your brand is one of the most important things you can get. You kind of establish right off the bat. And it doesn't take you a lot of cash to do that. You do your own state registrations fairly quickly. You get your website up. You can start using your brand as a tool to help you get into the world of commerce as fast as possible. You can file registrations of your brand before you start business, but your brand is probably one of the first things anybody has to think about. Then after that, what's unique about the tech that you've got, the processes you use? If you're doing your own programming, if you're doing your own building of hardware or adaptive brackets or pretty much anything that you're creating that is customized outside the known universe, you should think about filing some form of patent development. In the US, there's a couple of different ways to think about patents. There's a design patent and a utility patent. And with the utility patent, you can actually file something called a provisional patent, which is basically your idea described very thinly and filed to give you a year's grace period while you're putting the rest of your idea together. So these are available for kind of cost and financial purposes that you can string out some of your costs over at least a year in the world of patent. But then also, finally, always remember kind of who's going to be in competition. If you're in competition with a big company with a large IP portfolio, I can't enforce the idea that you should look at what they're doing first, make sure you're not inadvertently stepping in their world. So understand what your IP landscape is. Are there brands that sound like yours? Are there patents out there that are pretty much what you're doing? Do other people do what you do? So looking at your competitors, and then after you've got what's your brand and what's unique about you, put away, then also start locking in where your competitive approaches are going to be.
Hey, before you move on,
Yeah.
Mark, talk a little bit more of how to assess the landscape and when should a company interact with you on that front?
Okay.
When should they do some work on their own, and when should they call you up?
Well, you were always going to save the most money with attorneys if you go about your review wisely first. So, because most of the intellectual property databases are relatively available widely in different free sites, you can pretty much assess patents that sound like what you're looking for, and trademarks fairly quickly. I mean, a trademark search can be as easy as typing the brand you want to do and put it in Google and see what unique combinations of that come up. But in the sense of doing your research ahead of time, this is, in many ways, why I would give this advice to people going to talk to a doctor. Know who you are, know what makes you unique, know kind of what the other people in the marketplace are doing. So I say, do a Google search, do a Bing search, or DuckDuckGo search, or whatever search engine is your favorite. Come up with the 5 most likely companies similar to what you're doing, and then step off of that and go into the trademark database with the USPTO, search on your brand name, and see if anybody else is playing in your space there. Then step into one of the free patent sites, and type a basic English sentence about what your idea is, and see kind of who's in that space. If you're looking at domain names, I would reserve 2 or 3 different varietals of your brand name on the domain before you get to the trademark office. Because one of the things that happens a lot is that people watch what you're searching on these register sites, and if something sounds pretty cool, they will register ahead of you. You can pay a lot of money to get it back. I speak from personal experience on that.
Seriously, that sounds kind of nefarious.
It is nefarious, but having your favorite domain ported off to a Bermuda domain, and you have no legal recourse to get it back unless you have a trademark. It happens more often than you like. So because domain names are cheap, I tend to register 3 to 10 that fit best in there. And also, if you're going to have something that is controversial, register the domains that have your brand in it that have disparaging words in it, like myproductsucks.com or something along that line, because there's something called free speech in this world, and someone gets annoyed and they register a disparaging site against you. There's not much you can do about it because it becomes a free speech site. So to answer your point, Rick, the smart thing to do is do your research ahead of time. You will spend less money with search services or an attorney you're engaging on search costs if you've already brought things in and say, here's what I can do. And then maybe with the attorney to work about what are my workarounds, what I'm going to design around these things if you have things that are problematic.
Thank you.
Sure. So this is, when do you speak to an attorney? I mean, I take this as a gut check, because when you start to feel out of your element, when you start to feel out of, you're dealing with issues you just don't understand, that's always a good time to talk to somebody. I mean, a lot of attorneys will start you off, especially in the startup place. They'll give you a half hour or an hour of their time. Won't really look, because they're looking for people who can, do good work with it as well. I don't think a lot of people just want to build through on things that aren't going to, be commonly good for everybody. So if you've got something that's easily copied, talk to an attorney. If you have something that's really unique, but it's something that, somebody with a good connection in China can get copied and on the market in about 3 months, that's the time to talk to an attorney. if you are uncomfortable with the requirements of business filings, there's lots of companies out there who will help you with your business filings, your LLCs. There's LegalZoom will help you get trademarks and design patents. So lots of companies that you can go to that will be cheaper. But again, sometimes you get what you pay for. So, always talk to people who feel you can trust. Talk to them online. Get a sense for your gut with this person as well. I also say don't talk to an attorney until after you have an accountant and sales rep, because you have nothing to sell, or someone to count your money. You don't have much money to pay for these things. So price ranging, you can spend several $1,000s on a trademark. You can spend, between $6,000 and $15,000 on a patent application. And you can do a lot of these things in a sequence that works with your business. But, if you don't have revenue, it's kind of a lot of money to pull out all at once and dump into the hands of the trade. It doesn't really buy you, or it doesn't buy you any new business. It doesn't get you any place to be successful. So I always want to have you balance when you speak to attorney. It's when you get to the place where you're going to have a big loss or have a point of difficulty occur. So I'm probably one of the odd attorneys who say, but get a sales rep and accountant first. But I think that in the true business sense is, you have to be, I think relatively successful already to, afford insurance. If you've got the money ahead of time, great, get that done ahead of time. But a lot of startup businesses don't have that, that flexibility, and I don't feel comfortable advising you to talk to the attorney first, because you can recover from a lot of things in that respect, but you have nothing to sell, no ability to account for the cash flow, then maybe the attorney is the third thing on the list you should go to. So that's
Sure. I'll ask a question before you move on.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the maintenance fees attached to patents.
Sure.
And whether or not there's any corresponding maintenance fees on trademarks.
Well, so trademarks we renew every 10 years on the federal side. So so let me just back up and say maintenance fees so the U.S. government, even though they're going to give you these registrations, does not want you to keep them if you're not going to use them. So they have these requirements that in the case of patent, you can pay a maintenance fee to update your keep your patent file alive every 4 years, and once it's granted, it's good for 20 years, and the maintenance fees go up in the geometric progression, so that each 4-year period is twice as expensive as the last 4-year period is. But that's the progression they're bringing on. And it's not cheap. I mean, you will spend for carrying a single patent across 8 countries. That's another thought is there. You can spend up to $250,000 keeping that stuff alive in 4 countries. So the governments really want to push you to let those things go into the public domain. And so it's always a business trade-off decision when you're paying for these things down the road. Trademarks you have to renew every 10 years. You have to prove that you can use in the market continuously, and in association with the types of goods you're paying for the trademark registration on. Copyrights are less maintenance fee heavy, and trade secrets have no maintenance fee. You just have to keep them secret. I liken it very much to keeping your LLC or your S corp. You have to renew them every year to keep them alive and well, and file your taxes and that sort of stuff. So this is another reason why your accountant is so important in these cases. That's another way of getting yourself kind of in trouble if you don't pay the maintenance fees. If you lose the intellectual property you've spent so much money on ahead of time. So there's ongoing responsibility about patents as you go down the road there. But in the first 5 years of your business, you should make sure that you have a cogent story around your brand and a cogent story around what sort of things you can protect. Because if your belief structure is that you're going to take your business up to a certain point and sell it to a bigger company, the cleaner, the better housekeeping you have, the better bookkeeping you have, the better it is to retain that value, so you usually use a multiple on sale. Or if you're going to grow it organically and become the next Etsy, then you've got an entirely different path to go. And so It's always good to talk to attorneys about how to best accomplish that in the manner you want to. Your accountant should also be involved because there's tax strategies. Where you want your company to be in, what is the best place to take your tax breaks? What's a good state to be incorporated in? There's all sorts of different considerations there. So, always have a good accountant and a good attorney. Once your sales rep go out in the business to pay for them. So that's kind of the large things. There's ongoing fees that have to go with the sale.
A couple other questions, or did I see you were on your last slide?
Yeah, I'm on my last slide. So
Okay, a couple of questions for you. Kind of in the common mistake column, what might be an item or two or three that you see happen over and over, and you might be able to stop somebody from making that same mistake out in the audience?
well, let me just start. There's mistakes in each of those columns I had earlier, so let me just pull those back up. So trademarks is probably where most startups make mistakes. They don't do a clearance search ahead of time. They don't look at what their name is and distinctive relationship to the rest of the marketplace. And that's in many cases not their fault because businesses evolve. You find a lot of different people move from one focus when they launch to, well, we're really more about this, and slide halfway into something, but you don't keep your IP up to date. So as you change your business focus, you should make sure that your brand is adequately covered in that respect. Another big mistake is if people don't know what their brand is. It's not your company name in most cases. I would think about keeping your company name and your product name, your service name as two different distinct things, because your company name may change over and over and over again. But if you're still selling the same thing, you should focus on keeping brand around that product or service. It costs you nothing to put TM after something. It's a good way of getting common law recognition, everything. So from day one, you should have a TM over your brand, your product. I wouldn't TM your company name unless you really feel strongly that your company name is your product. That's another big kind of startup confusion. Always keep your brand name and your company name distinctly separate. Thinking about your intellectual property in the form of a patent, when you talk about and when you sell your patents, the products that your patents are covered, you can start a time countdown on that filing. So as you start to tell, you have this great idea, you've told 13 or 14 different people, you may have already started the clock ticking on that. You may have already expired that time, or you may have already gotten to a place where you got to do a rush file, those sorts of things. So when you have a unique idea, write down in a notebook, have your wife or your husband or somebody in your family sign it, and they understand the idea. Or if you're in a business that has confidentiality, have your coworker sign it. So that you actually can come up when you came up with the idea, and then proceed to investigate the patent filing from that point. Now, when you go to market, the moment you sell something in that product range, you will start one new product in the US. You absolutely kill your international rights doing that. So if you're going to do that, try to utilize the grace period. You have to file a US application, and you have to apply for an international license to file that application in other countries. So you should be thinking about the internationality of your product before you give up on your patent rights internationally. So there's a lot of things that can happen in the first year, and having a good sense for your business plan and how your business plan is executed, what are people going to pay for, what your market research says about what people are going to pay for. Always there's a dance there from disclosing too much to the venture capitalists, to the consumers that you're polling about how would they buy something. So there's a lot of unique stuff that can get lost if they don't think about it in a confidentiality sense. People need to sign NDAs. If you're going to talk to somebody about your idea, they need to sign an NDA, and you need to document what you're bringing in. A lot of companies, big companies, if you're bringing an idea in, will have a very draconian agreement which knocks you only down to whatever you copyrighted or trademarked or patented. So, and then another hour-long discussion over there. So, a lot of what I'm doing, I'm dancing over a lot of high-level stuff. There's nuance there.
Sure. Right, what about the flip side of a common mistake, but kind of from a business perspective, ROI perspective, if you're prioritizing, hey, do this because generally speaking, you're gonna get more bang for your buck or more bang for the effort you put into it. What might you, from a hierarchical perspective, what might you put at the top?
Well, from the top list, I really think that, making sure your brand is well exposed in the form of a trade. So, again, get a web page up with an e-commerce site on it as soon as possible. Mark everything to the trademark. Make sure that your trademark can be seen on Google search engine. So if you're doing SEO, have someone make sure that brand gets prominently, white-hatted for the search engines out there. Get your domains registered, get your variants of your domain registered. You get those things done first, and then at the point where you've got an idea that goes to patent, potentially do a provisional patent application, because there used to be the first inventor of the patent. Now it's the first with the patent. So a provisional application is let you take an idea that's mostly formed, file a provisional patent application on it, continue to work on that idea over the next 10 months before your patent attorney needs to file the non-provisional version of that. And it helps you kind of work out the kinks in your idea, so you're not forced to try to do everything once. The first patent you file should always be thought of as your broadest patent. You should be thinking about how it describes what you do. It's your marketing story. So your patents can be as powerful a marketing document as the brochure you're handing out at the trade show. It just depends on the person who's going to read it. So that's there. Copyright, put copyright notices. It doesn't cost you much of anything to put copyright notice on your webpage, put copyright notice on your marketing brochures, put them on your PowerPoints. Treat things in an orderly fashion. If you're going to talk about your idea to people, make sure that you allow an NDA. If you allow an NDA, maybe they're not the right people to talk to. So, I mean, and if there's something that's truly secret sauce, keep it secret. I mean, this is, there are any number of groups out there who, they'll meet with you, but then half of what they're trying to figure out is, can I do this without you? Sad to say, but there are people who do that. So those are some of the highlights there is keeping yourself trusted, verified with people you work with, get good agreements in place. If you have business partners, get agreements in place of who owns what. It's very much like a prenup. You get a good prenup with your business partners or the people you're working with. Then the issues of who owns what at the end aren't nearly as problematic as they are if you don't have it done. Sure. I have so many bad stories about very big companies that have done very excited joint marketing, do this, and they've had their co-opetition sold off from under their biggest competitor. It's devastating. So, not just ruin your whole day, but it's ruin your whole intent to business. So,
that's too bad. As you look at the landscape out in the kind of general marketplace, who's doing stuff around their brand and kind of marketing perspective that from the chair you look in, you like what they're doing, or you think they're doing it well, or you can see what's going on that you, no problem, and that you maybe respect the angle they're taking, from your chair, from an intellectual property attorney perspective.
I have to say, I may not look like the biggest fan of social media, but some of the people who are out there doing guerrilla marketing using social media, using their networks. That's one thing that I'm a big proponent of LinkedIn, less so with Facebook's of the world, but I think a lot of people have the opportunity to reach a lot of people with messaging about their product through the social media sphere. I see a lot of the, especially startup companies that are trying to get some buzz around something interesting. I spend a lot of time watching people in the intellectual property market, obviously. So the people that, can get their message out and get it, paid attention to, I think have a lot sharper growth curve than those who are, if you can't explain what you do for a living, how can someone understand it well enough to buy it? So I mean, I see a lot of good, simple messagings, good, simple branding. Things come through me on social sites. And, you see a lot of kind of stealth marketing. The promoting sites on social marketing block fairly easily. It's the people who have a good informational story that Reddit or some of the other sites that don't hold themselves out as product promotion, but they're getting really good product placement in these things by getting to the top spot on Reddit, getting to a retweet place on things. I don't like Twitter generally for that sort of stuff, but I see people being effective on it. I think paying for placement from the Facebooks of the world and that kind of stuff has gotten to the point where it's more annoying than useful. I'm prone to block people who do that. But I mean, if you're LinkedIn, you have a good educational message. There's an awful lot of value that you get. I put something that I think is interesting on LinkedIn. I may get 7,000 or 8,000 views, and especially if it's relevant to other people. So I mean, if it's relevant to you, and you have a good network of people who would share that thought on relevance, you can also sell them with your expertise in that way. It's very, very much a real marketing technique. Okay.
A reminder to our audience, if you have questions, please type them out and we'll weave them into the conversation. We've been speaking to Mark Scanani, Practice Chair Analytics and Firm Compliance Officer at Schwegman Lumber Boosner. Schwegman is an intellectual property law firm and a sponsor of Lessons from the Garage, as well as the Network Connect. Lessons from the Garage is brought to you by the Network Connect. And to learn more about Schwegman Lumber Boosner, you can check out their website, www.slwip.com. Again, slwip.com. And you can learn more about the firm there, as well as get our slides either by reaching out to Mark directly and or me or us at Lessons from the Garage. Mark, as we kind of wind things down here, any kind of closing thoughts to wrap it all together? Any must do, any must thing to avoid, any kind of ribbon to tie everything up?
Well, I think, the thing that ties up intellectual property is it is probably going to be the most valuable thing to many of your businesses that you will have at the very downstroke of your startup. It is one of the things that persists the longest throughout your startup. It is one thing that's looked at most with greatest scrutiny as you are either wrapping yourself up for an acquisition or bringing yourself up for valuation in some form of investment. So one of the things that you should not do is be lazy about it. You should make active and informed decisions about your brand. You should make active and informed decisions about whether you can protect your tech or protect any part of your process and patents. You should make active and informed decisions about who has access to your secrets. And in many cases, there's almost a laissez-faire attitude around intellectual property that I find, especially I do about 300 or more M&A reviews over the last 10 years. So one of the biggest problems in every company that I'm looking at for the purchase is they haven't kept track of things. They've been sloppy about their bookkeeping. Their IP bookkeeping, rather than, I'm not looking at the taxes. They've been sloppy about how they've managed it. They have been putting marketing material around the trademark, using it as a noun, which you shouldn't do unless you want to give it a trademark. So they've been, and they're inarticulate about what is their value proposition from an IP standpoint. The more related you can make things, the more it's concentrated you can make things that tie your IP tightly to your product, how your IP tech is brand, that tends to get the highest valuation, in my experience. So a lot of people don't do this. A lot of times it's just a snapshot. They do it right at the beginning of their startup. But then 5 years down the road, their startup looks nothing like it started out. Everybody's got to remember that your IP registrations are a snapshot in time. It's, you will, if you want to, see how your company grows, you got to, keep moving that snapshot forward and keep your IP heavily engaged with your business plan. Get rid of the IP, it doesn't make sense to your business plan, you're wasting money. So it's all about keeping your yields high on the product side and keeping the yields of your IP related to that.
And then what is the best way to get a hold of you?
I'm highly available on the SLWIP website. My phone number is on there.
Right.
But LinkedIn is, I'm an avid LinkedIn fan, so look for me on LinkedIn and look for my articles there.
And the last name, well, pronounced Stanani, there's a G in there, so.
So STIGNANI. It's I like to tell people it's a fine Irish name because up here we don't have a lot of boys from Northern Italy. So, so yes, that's the last name. So happy to answer any questions that people, share the webinar, please just consider this my invitation. Just pick up the phone and call me. Happy to give you, 10, 20 minutes of talking, and if you need more, we'll talk some more.
Sure, and again, the website is slwip.com, slwip.com. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Schwegman Lumber Lusner, for sponsoring the event, and look forward to seeing you all next time. Thank you.
Oh, shoot, play a guitar thing. Sure. Now, I've got to figure out the best way to pull these off of the YouTube site and put them into the library.
Right, and I was thinking we have two lists. We have the list from the first time, and we have the list from this time. I wrote myself a note to send those folks a link to the video if that's possible.
It absolutely is. I think it's probably the same link that I gave you.
Okay. Well, I think that would be a good thing.
Yep, and the way this is set up is it's not private. You just have to have the link in order to get to it.
Okay.
So
So how to do this?
I thought that was great. And here's what I like about it. It's going to have a long shelf life.
Yeah.
Right? Because this is, in a sense, the philosophy of IP.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, very, very helpful.
Good. Well, I was like, what did we get as far as attendees though? Was it double digits, Luis?
I actually wasn't watching the whole time. I do know that on the list, we had roughly